I hate being the good guy. I'd rather just yell at you.
Psych.
And yet I'm the bad guy.
You are a monstrosity of evil.
Bad parenting.
Go to hell. A psycho. Yes, her name's Abigail Miller.
Swahili is in the house.
Paige had the potential to become a really good dancer. Paige had so much wasted potential. Her stage presence was criminally overlooked by Abby. With training from a different coach, she could have been so amazing. This is true for everybody on the team, but Paige had a stage presence that can't be taught. This was especially highlighted in her off-show dances. Paige had the most potential, but Abby never gave her the time of day.
I totally agree with this. Paige's solos off the show were all amazing. I think when she had enough confidence in what she was doing on stage, she totally commanded the stage. And then this was met with Abby doing things like not giving Paige the same amount of practice time for her solos, and just not giving her extra dances in general. I hesitate to say that she had the most potential, because I think everyone had a lot of potential in different areas, but I totally agree with everything else.
Chloe was better than Maddie in seasons 1 to 3. Chloe is overrated for S3 and 4.
I think it's harder to say who was better between Chloe and Maddie. There are things that I think Chloe does better, and there are things that I think Maddie does better. If it solely comes down to whose solos I enjoyed watching more, it does lean towards Maddie's, though I can't necessarily say that's a representation of only the dancing, and not other factors such as the choreography, the song, and the dance concepts they had. In terms of season 3 and 4, on the show there was the whole idea that Chloe wasn't even competing with Maddie to be the best dancer, but competing with Kendall to be the second best dancer, and overall that's just a terrible idea to give kids, and I don't agree with that. But in terms of Chloe being overrated, I don't think any dancer is ever really overrated. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I think that people give Chloe a lot of credit because they know how much she faced at the ALDC, and so maybe that affects how positively she is rated. But I wouldn't agree that she is necessarily overrated.
Melissa is the best mom.
I actually have a whole video about this, but that video only covers how the moms were portrayed on the show. In terms of longtime cast members, I tend to say Holly was the best mom on the show, because she raised Nia to be tough, but still stood up for her when it was important. There were times when Kenzie said she wished Melissa spoke up for her, and although I think Melissa was a good mom, I wouldn't say she was the best. Right now, as a mom, I think Melissa is doing her best to navigate the way that she and her kids are famous, but she's also allowed some things that I would hesitate to do, like letting her children get tattoos when they aren't adults yet.
It's Not My Fault is the best dance on the show.
I love this dance. My favorite dance on the show is Suicide Hotline, followed by Is There Still Hope, but I think I'm naturally biased towards group dances. If we were talking solos, I totally agree that this is one of my favorites, though I'd say the best dance on the show is probably a more subjective topic.
Mackenzie was always better than Asia. Asia might have had turns and energy, but she could only really do jazz. She also stuck out like a sore thumb in groups. Mackenzie was versatile and fit with the other girls despite being younger.
I definitely thought that Mackenzie fit into group dances better than Asia did. Asia was an amazing soloist, though I'll give her that 100%. She was so entertaining to watch, and as you said, she has so much energy. But Mackenzie definitely wins on versatility and being able to fit into the team. In terms of who fit into group dances better, it was definitely Mackenzie. But Asia definitely had her own star quality, and so I'm really glad that she went in a solo direction after just a season of the show.
Kalani is the best dancer and a close second Maddie. Kalani S7 was the best dancer ever on the show.
Kalani is an amazing dancer. Of course, one of the huge advantages she has over someone like Maddie is her training at club dance. After seeing season 8 and having all those really talented kids just for one season, I found it really hard to say exactly who was the best dancer on the show. But I definitely agree that Kalani is up there as one of the best, if not the best.
Ease on Down the Boulevard is 20 times more cringy than Notorious ALDC.
I actually disagree with this one. Ease on Down the Boulevard at least had the Wizard of Oz theme to carry it. I think the song was cringier because the girls were the ones singing it, but because there were other things that were cheesy, like the costume was kind of cheesy, the choreography was kind of like musical theater themed, I think it all kind of fit into this is the theme we're trying to push. Whereas in Notorious ALDC, they hired someone else to do the song, and all of their costumes, the concept, didn't really put towards being cheesy, and so it kind of unintentionally felt cheesy, and because of that, I think Notorious ALDC was more cringy.
Ariana would have been a better fit for the team than Macy.
From a visual standpoint, I would also have preferred having Ariana with Lily and Eliana, just because it would have looked better with the 3 younger dancers being around the same height. I heard that Ariana's mother made the difficult decision to leave the show because of some family issues going on that were making it very difficult to stay on the show. So I understand why she didn't stay on the team. But I would definitely have loved to see more of her. She is so talented, and it is amazing to see her still improving today.
I'm shocked Christy didn't throw hands with Abby during the S4 finale after Abby made that comment. I would have TBH.
Violence is never the answer. But in this case, I would let it slide too.
The producers, the moms, and Abby are all toxic in one way or another and are the reasons why the kids have issues. Yes. Even Holly has done some rude things in the later seasons. I'm a bit understanding though, just BC so much happened on the show and it's bound to break even the strongest of people at times.
I think this goes to suggest that everyone in a way is problematic. And I definitely agree that everyone has problems in some way and many issues came out on the show. I feel like the original intentions for the show were good, but once it was decided to be extended, it went off the rails. The producers should never have taken advantage of children by putting forth their plots and storylines that clearly were hurting them. Abby should have never been teaching the way she does, and the moms also did a lot of things that I wouldn't agree with. Because of that, I mostly blame production and Abby for what happened to them.
Maddie was treated the worst. Maddie was treated the best on the show. Yes, everything affected her, but chairs weren't thrown at her. She wasn't sabotaged constantly, nor did she experience racism.
I'm assuming when we say the best or the worst, we're talking about the dancers. In terms of the dancers who were there for a long time, like at least 3 seasons, I would say that Maddie was probably treated the best. There were problems with people accusing Abby of favoritism, and I'm sure Maddie felt so much stress because Abby kept putting all this pressure on her to do well and win every time. But when it came down to it, Maddie did get these solos, and she got the good music and good costumes and a good theme for most of those solos.
I've heard people say they don't like the costume for Always a Bridesmaid, but it's one of my favorites.
In terms of the scale from hating it to loving it, the costume for Always a Bridesmaid is probably on the lower end of my scale. I think it fits perfectly with the theme, and it's adorable. It's just not one of my favorites.
The empty chair should have had more solos, massively underrated.
The empty chair should have had more solos for sure. I think it's a crime that we couldn't see more of the chair's pure talent and skills. My little chair worked way too hard to be ignored for a solo every single time.
Some Maddie, Kalani, and Brynn fans are toxic.
I don't think I personally know those fans, but I definitely agree that there are people in this fandom, and any fandom in general, who can be extreme when it comes to expressing their opinions, and that can become negative and hurtful beyond a reasonable level.
I personally believe that we should take Abby's negative comments toward any of the cast members with a grain of salt. We have a scene on the show she is no stranger to lying, so what makes you think she is just gonna stop now that the show is over? She has a very bitter attitude toward the girls and especially their moms, so of course she is going to say anything she can to make all of them look bad. She is trying to stay relevant and this is the only way to do it in her mind.
I agree. You've said everything that I could possibly say about this. Abby clearly harbors hard feelings towards a lot of the cast members. You can tell how she'll say pretty much only kind things about the people she likes, like some of the Season 8 cast members and JoJo, who all openly support her. With cast members that she holds grudges with, it's not the same.
Am I Enough was Eliana's best.
I would say it was definitely one of her best on the show. But if we're going for her best of all time, pretty much all of her off-show solos are better than what she did on the show.
The costume for Electricity, Ogveer, isn't as inappropriate as people make it out to be. It was the dance itself that had an impact on people's thoughts of the costume. I guarantee you that if the costume was used on your typical jazz dance, no one would care as much.
I agree with this. The costumes themselves were not unlike other dance costumes at all. The girls have worn so many other costumes that were essentially the same. It was only the dance that was inappropriate.
Nia is better than Kendall.
I think there are some cases where I would agree and some cases where I would disagree. For instance, in Nia and Kendall duets, I pretty much always prefer watching Nia. But in terms of some technical aspects, there are places where Kendall did a bit better. If it's solely a case where I had to pick one whose dancing I enjoy more though, I would pick Nia.
Most of the time the best group dances were about heavy topic and issues.
Well, that is how they stand out and that is how they become the best, so I agree with that.
Christy during Chloe and Maddie's friendship breakup was very immature. She was very manipulative to Chloe. You know who your real friends are.
I feel like once the moms realized that their drama was going to be a big part of the show, they had this collective agreement to not actually bring the kids into anything so that they weren't experiencing that firsthand. And that clearly was unavoidable. You know, they still tried to fight away from the kids and whatnot. But I think that whenever a mom started talking negatively about a kid, it became wrong. Kids were kids and they should have been able to navigate their relationships by themselves. And I do think Christy misplaced her anger on Melissa by trying to justify her anger to Chloe and having Chloe feel that same anger. And I agree that that was wrong. That's all for this video. If your opinion didn't make it into this video, I'll be making more of these videos to address more opinions. I got over 200 responses, and so I'm doing my best to include as many as I can in all of the videos. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye!